much of what we've broken down has turned out to be the truth. They've gone through this process of there's no government drug dealing, there's no government money laundering, there's no cancer viruses being added to the vaccines, there's no covert population reduction programs. Now it's just all coming out, but it almost just inoculates people psychologically to go, okay, big deal, to where they'll put up with anything. So how do you quantify that paradox I'm kind of getting at?
Well, for me, at least, being a freedom fighter means always being sorry that I'm right. You know, because it's like, I feel like a sort of doctor, you know, you got a patient who smokes and smokes. You keep saying, man, you got to stop smoking. It's going to make you sick. You got to stop. And a guy keeps smoking and then he gets sick. And you're like, man, I hate being right. I wish I'd been wrong. Like, so it had all turned out to not be true. And now the poor were no longer poor. Income disparities had come down. National debt had been paid off. And peace and unicorns and rainbows, you know, populated the planet. But it is a gruesome thing to know where this kind of system leads. There is no end to power lust. You know, they've done studies. The acquisition of power over other human beings is more addictive than cocaine. It actually releases the same kind of chemical hormones in the brain that a drug addiction does.
Yeah, but I like seeing people empowered in art and literature and you know, huge exploration being launched. I don't like telling people what to do.
No, but that's, you know, because you're not addicted to power. But it is a very, very powerful addiction, right? I mean, what's that guy said? Stroke of the pen, law of the land.
Paul Bagala.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, pretty
stroke of the pen, law of the land, kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, that amount of power to, I mean, imagine what Obama can do.
What about Obama going, I'm good at killing people?
Yeah, well, you know, he may not like to.
I mean, even if you're a real killer, you don't like go, I'm really good at killing people.
Yeah, this isn't an ad I've not seen on anyone's business card yet. But Obama, I mean, look at this. He can pass Obamacare. He can then add thousands of amendments to it after the fact with no congressional approval.
He can be the savior of his own bill.
Yeah,
he can fix his own problem.
They can hand out waivers. A direct contradiction of the Constitution.
Total discrimination.
Yeah, supposed to guarantee you equal treatment under the law. They're handing out thousands of
those are royal indulgences. Yeah. Those are.
This is it's papal Middle Ages nonsense, right? So and that kind of power, you can lie to people and say you'll keep your doctor, and then what are the consequences? I mean, you lie to the government, you are going away to in a dark hole for a very long time. The government lies to you, they get your vote with no negative consequences. They have no contract with you whatsoever.
That's right. When the FBI's been here before with subpoenas for like people threatening on the website or something, you know, just side issues, they go talk to me and I go, I cannot talk to you because you always put people in jail saying they gave false answers. And that's unconstitutional law. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me. No, you understand. The first rule of Fight Club is don't talk to the government. The second rule is don't talk to the government. The third rule is keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
The fourth rule is shut up. What's the fifth rule?
Don't talk to the government.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go out on a limb here.
It kind of goes on for infinity.
The eighth rule, interestingly enough, is don't talk to the government. But
yes,
yeah. So they have no duty to protect you. They have no duty to control you. You have no control over your government. People think that the vote, all you're doing is voting for people already bought and sold by special interests. You know, they should have those NASCAR stickers all over the congressman by who's bought and sold them. It's not your interest that they're.
Well, that's it. People in government, corporations, and all this, they just join their group and then distort everything according to what group they're with. And I thought I was on Team Humanity to have a college of ideas where we vote in the free market for what we believe in through free association. That's what builds a great civilization. We got Stephan Molyneux here. We're taking phone calls this segment and the next, but he's going to give us his review of House of Cards. He's coming up in the next segment. Right now, let's talk to Steve in Colorado. Thanks for holding, and thank you for joining us today, Steve.
Thank you, Alex.
Go ahead, sir. What?
Yeah, I just want to say hi to Stephan. I watched that Karl Marx thing, bio that you put together.
Yeah. Oh, this is Karl Marx basically preying upon the poor and the working class after talking about capitalists being evil for doing the same thing. He had sex with his maid, had a kid, tossed her out on the street, never paid her a penny. All the studies that Karl Marx did of the market system at the time, he could never find a worker who wasn't paid anything except in his own house, his maid. He was the worst exploiter. I was just pointing out the moral hypocrisy.
Oh, and he was an angel compared to Lenin.
Oh, yeah. Well, Lenin, he wasn't an outright murderer, Marx, but Lenin was an outright, just savage genocidal murderer. I mean, nonstop bloodfests. But sorry, caller, we don't get distracted. Did you have a question?
Well, yeah, it's kind of funny, though, just real quick. I want to talk about the IRS on being audited and stuff, but it's funny how these neo-Marxists of today, through osmosis almost, have this same degree of hypocrisy that Karl Marx did. I mean, it's almost, like I said, through osmosis from. It's just incredible.
They're bloodthirsty criminals who have grabbed the moral high ground and lecture to everyone when they're exempt from everything they're doing and engage in every dirty trick. And, hey, you try claiming the fifth in an IRS investigation, they'll clap you in irons. But the hussy up there can be caught lying last year, taking the fifth, does it again, she doesn't get in trouble.
And the IRS is going to be enforcing some aspects of Obamacare, and they are desperate to get out of Obamacare themselves. They are lobbying like crazy to get out of Obamacare.
Oh, yeah, the unions, the government people, and they're all going to be exempt.
Oh, it's for us. It's for us, Alex. I mean, you know, not for the rulers. I mean, you don't build, you know, your electric fences around your bedroom if you're the farmer. It's just for the cows. Horrible. Did you have another comment?
That's where I need you guys' help. I am being audited.
Sorry to hear that.
Quick bio. I was a drywall contractor in Colorado. My entire livelihood and trade was awarded to illegal aliens, put out of business. My home taken from the MERS, all the value of my property wiped away.
I know, they almost force you with, because again, I'm not even against the illegals, but the point is, you have them here, they'll work for less, their wives go on welfare, they then undermine the cost, you're in the system, the IRS comes and takes you over. You almost have to survive to just start acting like the illegals, get a fake name, pay nothing, operate, do whatever you want, and just sit there in jail when they arrest you for whatever, and they'll just let you out. I mean, you can really learn something from the illegals. They're almost the total libertarians, except they then siphon off the state. What do you say about that, Stephan?
Oh, I mean, American immigration policy since the 60s has been a disaster. I mean, in the 60s, I mean, and this is the case in other countries like Australia and so on, they try to bring people in who are educated, who are at least share some of the common cultural values of the West. Yeah, I mean, you can't just go and try emigrating to Australia if you're coming from some third world country. The Democrats, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm pounding on the Democrats, like I'm no Republican, but the Democrats...
But they're the virulent cancer.
They are very much bringing in their voting base, and their voting base is underskilled people from third world countries. This has been explicit in their platform since the 1960s. I think it was Ted Kennedy who first brought in this bill. Used to get 90% of immigrants from Europe, now get the majority of immigrants coming in from unskilled from third world. And this drives down wages. And then they say, well, now you see we need minimum wage laws to bring the wages back up. And it's, you know, I'm for open borders. There's no such thing as, you know, an illegal anybody, right? But given this policy, it's just a complete...
Well, I was about to say, but yeah, you could have open borders worldwide if there wasn't any welfare.
Exactly.
But you have welfare and then let them vote to take my guns?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, they can then vote to make me their slave.
Yeah, and it happens.
It is. That's what democracy is. Two wolves vote that I'm a sheep, I'm their dinner. Many anthropologists and archaeologists believe that before man even discovered the power to harness and use fire, we were involved in agrarian activities. That is, taking the seeds of plants and then replanting them to produce more. The very foundation of our modern civilization and human culture is centered around the planting and cultivation of edible plants.
Here are some of the amazing deals at InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com. The Survival Seed Vault by My Patriot Supply features only the finest survival heirloom seeds for a robust and hardy garden, even in the toughest times. We also have starter varieties of the deluxe seed packages for fruit, salad, salsa, peppers, medical herbs, and more. Go to the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsShop.com.
And remember, the revolution against tyranny is growing. Many anthropologists, and soon I'm launching the official TV system and expanding the show, and I'll be hosting the show, not just doing commentary like I did last night, most nights of the week. So no rest for those that don't want to be wicked. No rest for those that want to live in the age of reality and want to be free. But it's an animating contest. It's addictive, so it's like exercise. Man, throw me in that briar patch every day. I got some really bad news for folks, but some good news as well. The enemy has shown their hand. We broke off of their sites bragging yesterday that they were about to get Facebook to restrict discussion of the Second Amendment. That article is Bloomberg moves to ban pro-gun speech. Facebook now working with the former New York mayor front groups to censor support for Second Amendment. This just got released an hour ago. It'll be going up on Infowars.com. Moms demand action. Literally, that's like 3 people in San Antonio when we had thousands out there. They tried to start a fight with us on video. We're going to add that to the article. This just was released March 5th. That's today, 2014. Facebook's announced today that the company and its popular photo-sharing subsidiary Instagram will take significant steps. Remember, they arrest kids that draw a picture of a gun at school to block potentially illegal firearm sales through their platforms. Now, that's meant to sound reasonable. For the first time, the sites will delete reported posts, reported by them, offering to buy or sell guns without background checks. Now, people go, well, that sounds reasonable. Then you read deeper. Anyone with a profile under 18 won't be able to see things about guns or read the word gun, so they can have bots that block everything. This has already happened to us, where we send out a pro-gun meme with like Hitler saying, I love gun control, you know, and stuff like that. Or people about Benghazi, the Navy SEAL group, they just block it.
Yeah.
And this has been their plan all along. And you read into the document, it's page after page. But it says Facebook will continue to report to law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. Facebook will take down reported pages of groups where guns are sold. And now, again, these are groups, gun shops and gun groups that then link to their gun shop.
Yeah.
Guns not being sold there. They send it to a gun shop and make you buy it.
Yep.
But they create this illusion until the owner of the page acknowledges the page that includes the information prominently at the top of the page. Facebook's Help Center will remind sellers that they may conduct background checks for. So it's all about you say you will comply with the laws. They're the new arbiters of free speech online. Facebook will provide public education ad space targeted at users interested in firearm-related content to ensure they know about the gun laws. So now there'll be Mayor Bloomberg anti-gun, literally brainwash the public, as the Attorney General said, that famous quote, I'm sure you've seen that, targeted at people so they get free advertising now. And it goes on, it will block people from being able to see the gun sites. So it gives them free advertising, you name it. These people always set themselves up, like the ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, over law enforcement, where they set all the policies. They're God. Rachel Maddow is God.
Well, first of all, I can't imagine Facebook is really enjoying this process. You know, they say they're working with the New York government or whatever, and it's like, that's like me working with a mugger for the orderly transfer of my wallet. The fact that he has a gun to my ribs is pretty much the whole equation, right? I mean, what the government can do to business is significant. I know a lot of businesses use government to get rent seeking, to get comparative advantage and so on. But if the government comes knocking and says, we'd really like you to work with us, well, they are the guys with all the guns.
And we've been so compliant, that's what's empowered the beast. It's time to start not complying.
No, but what's beautiful about this, and we were just talking about this in the break, that I think the government still thinks that they have a monopoly of information distribution, like back in the day when there were like 3 networks and the government basically controlled or managed or had the license fees for all of these things, right? Licensed through the FCC. Now, I mean, what a great way to educate kids about the Second Amendment, because Lord knows with teenagers, like these people have never met a teenager. You go to a teenager and say, you're not allowed to see this. And it's 2 clicks away on the internet. What's the first thing that teenager...
Stay out of the liquor cabinet.
Yeah. I mean, I think the average age...
Stop chasing cheerleaders.
The average age of kids getting porn these days is 10 to 11 years old, when it's, you know, not legal until, I don't know, 18 or 19 or something like that, right? So it's a beautiful way to get kids interested in the Second Amendment, to have Facebook start blocking stuff, because now they're going to get educated about it.
Well, that's it. They're putting it in the same category as porn.
I mean, it's mad, and it's wonderful how much work the government is doing on behalf of liberty advocates in helping the teenagers to understand the power of the state and helping them get interested in topics now taboo, which is, you know, I mean, that's like it's catnip for a teenager. Oh, it's taboo. The powers that be don't want me to see this. Here I go to go and find it right away. I mean, you couldn't advertise education.
Well, listen, they did that. I actually figured out the reason I was successful. One of the big make it or break it moments was I put out some documentaries about the military training for martial law, which they do perennially. They're doing it all the time. But the military got a hold of these documentaries, Police State 2000 and others, and I was already somewhat successful. And the Marine Corps and the Army across the board said, do not watch Alex Jones or listen to Alex Jones. Most of them didn't know who I was. That's why today, undoubtedly, we are like the #1 show in the U.S. Armed Forces, because they still say, do not listen to him. Do not listen to Ron Paul. Do not get involved in the Tea Party. It's making them all run to it. what were they thinking? I mean,
they're thinking they have control over the narrative. The narrative is fragmented. It used to be a sole control over the narrative, right? Like when the Catholic priests spoke the liturgy in Latin in the Middle Ages, and the commoners didn't know Latin and they couldn't get a hold of the Bible. And then Martin Luther comes along, translates it into a language they can see, and the monopoly of Christendom then fragments into, you know, Zwinglians and Anabaptists and Lutherans and all this kind of stuff. And that creates more individual debate and discussion. I think that the people in power now, they grew up in like the 70s or the 80s or whatever, and there was a monopoly of narrative back then. Now there's no monopoly of narrative. They think that they can close this down, and it's not gonna be like whack-a-mole.
Well, that's like they'll have MSNBC or others go, Alex Jones has no listeners and is not important and is not on AM and FM stations. And then people go, look, I'm on over 100.
He doesn't exist because he's not on media controlled by the government.
But the difference is I'm on over 160, but we've been more successful in the free market internet. The point is that they lie incessantly.
Yeah.
They lie incessantly. And you're right. They operate like they think they're in a vacuum.
But you can lie if nobody can cross-check you. Right, but people don't, like, my website got banned in the armed services too, and the number of military listeners to my show went through the roof.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Didn't they know when they ordered the Pentagon in like 99, 2008? I mean, suddenly I had this giant audience, and suddenly I was being given all this info that turned out to be accurate. People leaking, you know, just basic stuff, not like secrets, but what was going on. Because they didn't like the training they were being given to take on Americans. Sure. They heard a guy saying it was bad. They knew I was telling the truth. Then they're told, don't listen to this guy. Then they come in and say, you're going to get run or get PT duty if we find any more of these films here. Suddenly, everyone was watching them.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the system thinking?
It's the delusion of control. The technology has bypassed.
It's the Streisand effect.
I'm sorry, what now?
You know, the Streisand effect where she kept threatening to sue bloggers, don't say where I live, don't talk about me. So it brought all this attention to it, made it 1,000 times bigger.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I'm saying, literally, that shows how screwed up these people are. I mean, I don't mean to keep marveling about it. It's just that what you're saying is true.
Well, they inhabit the state, which is an institution that is so ancient, it's ridiculous. It's just an outgrowth of warlords and witch doctors from the Stone Age. They inhabit the state, which is retro, and they have had so much monopoly control over the media that I think that they still don't quite grasp just how porous information has become now. Sure. And how, I mean, you know, it's like you put a tiny pebble in a stream and you think you're damming the whole stream. No, everything just goes around it. I mean, there's no rock big enough to dam the flow.
Well, I mean, here's an example. I learned early on with stalkers or people in the media that make stuff up who wanted attention, smaller people than me, making stuff up. Don't respond, they go away. You give them attention, it gives them attention, they do it more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, that's 101. I'm not that smart, I know that. How can the system not know that?
Well, remember, they're also playing to an older audience. I think younger people are much more open to principled ideas of freedom than older people, to some degree. And I think what they're doing is they're playing to an audience that themselves do not understand how widely porous the flow of information has become. So what they're saying, the people are saying, well, we don't want our kids seeing these Second Amendment things. It's like, well, we talk to Facebook and it's taken care of. And people are like, hey, I'm over 50. That sounds plausible to me because, you know, when they weren't allowed to show it on TV, they weren't allowed to show it on TV and nobody knew about it. Or when it wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, don't they get by banning Super Bowl ads that are pro-gun, by arresting kids that draw a picture of a gun at school, they only make it sexier? Because let me tell you, with the liberal trendies, the sexiest thing now is to go square dancing, two-stepping, buy guns, become a hillbilly. We're actually winning with the young liberals. They're waking up and becoming libertarians.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen for the power structure because it's not going well.
Well, the other thing, too, is that I think the government control of the schools have become so complete, so absolute. This started in the 60s when you could no longer fire teachers, and it just became so absolute. And I don't think people really remember or understand that when young people think of the state, they think of the school. And the experiences they have in the school are so uniformly negative these days. I mean, it was pretty bad when I was a kid.
It was horrible when I was in.
Yeah, but it's become even worse now. Like, I mean, in the 30 years since I was in high school, I mean, it's become exponentially worse. And like now, as you know, they're built by the same people who build prisons.
It's a mind control facility.
Yeah, it is a prison. It is an actual prison that you're forced to go to. And so I think the government is used to this patriotic blah, blah, blah. But teenagers now understand that it's the government that runs their lives as teenagers. It's the government that makes them go to school.
And they're rebelling against mommy and daddy now, but the state is their mommy and daddy. They're going to rebel against the state.
Raised by the state. They've been put in state institutions from about the age of 3 or 4 onwards. And so when the state tells them stuff, all the rebellion that used to go to mom and dad in the 50s is now going to the state. What a beautiful situation to be in. What a great fomenting, wonderful lava pool we've got to inject some reason and passion into and to wake people up.
Because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah. Hey, imagine if high school went on forever. Well, welcome to the modern government. You know, if that doesn't make...
You know, I have a recurring nightmare that I still have where I'm back in high school.
Do you still have that one where you didn't study for some test?
Yeah.
I still have those. Yeah.
And like, I'll be like, the nightmare is I'm 30 as a senior.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, my God, I'm an idiot. I've got to get out of here.
That's a great line.
Do the rest of the hour with us. You got some lunch coming for you.
You are watching the best of the Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of InfoWarsNews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.